I'm not wrong. My name's in there. I'm not gonna lie.
If you win it, we'll know.
Right.
You got one?
We got a number there. We're gonna roll for about 10 minutes.
Otherwise, you just buy the last ticket. It's good.
Call this meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Remember to silence your cell phones unless, as Supervisor Jewett, you have already informed me that you've done so. Item on the agenda number 1, citizen concerns. Are there any concerned citizens on an item not already addressed on the agenda? Or any callers? No callers. The number once again is 712-224-6014. To our, how many listeners?
4 watchers.
4. Moving on to item 2, approval of the agenda. I'll move it.
Second.
Second by DeWitt. Hearing no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Items 3 through 9 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 3 is approval of the minutes of the August 11th meeting. Item 4 is approval of the claims. Item 5 from board administration includes A, approval of resolution for a tax suspension for initials EM, and B, approval of a notice to terminate farm tenancy. And 6, receive the juvenile detention July population report. 7 from human resources includes A, approval of the memorandum of personnel transactions. B, presentation of award certificates for Renee Pettigrew and Lisa Robinson, right here. Thank you. And 8, from Community and Economic Development Department, David Gleiser, includes A, approval of a resolution thanking and commending Bruce Garvey for his service on the Planning and Zoning Commission. B, approval of resolution thanking and honoring Sean Streck for his service on the Planning and Zoning Commission. C, approval of resolution thanking and honoring Dwight Rohrholm for his service on the Board of Adjustment. And D, approval of resolution thanking and honoring Katie Calling for her service on the Board of Adjustment. These are being signed right now. Item 9 from Secondary Roads, County Engineer Mark Nera includes A, approval of underground utility permit for Western Iowa Telephone for fiber optic cable and equipment on selected roads in Odo Township. And B, approval of underground utility permit for Frontier Communications for copper telephone cable and equipment on D12 110th Street. Any questions on the consent agenda?
I'll move approval.
I'll second the motion by DeWitt. Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item 10 for information from the Iowa Drainage District Association. Mr. Torbert is with us. This is an annual report to the board by the Iowa Drainage District Association.
Good afternoon. I didn't know that would be so fast, so get myself organized here. Thank you all again for the opportunity to appear before you and talk about some of the things that we have going on with respect to the Iowa Drainage District Association and drainage in general. First thing I would talk about that we've been working on is that one of the complaints that I have heard many, many times in my tenure as executive director is the unwillingness of the Fish and Wildlife Service to pay for drainage assessments. And what happens is Fish and Wildlife Service owns property within a drainage district. They get the assessment and they don't pay it, claim that they will not and do not have the responsibility under law to pay it. And of course, when that happens, that assessment has to be spread to the other members of the drainage district. I finally talked to the board about this last year and made a decision to approach Senator Grassley's office to see if there might be some resolution to this issue. Senator Grassley is a farmer. He lives in a drainage district on his farm, and he very well understands drainage assessments and what happens if people in that district don't pay. The first thing that we heard from Senator Grassley's staff was that they wanted to do an evaluation and see if this were just a drainage issue in Iowa or see if this was an issue nationally with other types of similar assessments. And the answer we got back pretty quickly was that this is a bigger deal than just drainage. That Fish and Wildlife Service nationally gets all sorts of special assessment notices which they routinely do not honor. So the next step was to determine, if there was a solution to this, either from a regulatory point of view or from a statutory point of view. I had been working with the staff for about 4 months, and then COVID-19 hit in March, and everything ground to a halt, as you might expect. And so I restarted communication with Senator Grassley's staff in July, and the staff person that I had been working with had moved on, so we were assigned to a new staffer. So I basically had to start over and sort of do Drainage 101 with him to explain what this was all about. And he contacted Fish and Wildlife Service, and the message he got back was, we don't pay drainage taxes. And I was on the phone with him. We had our legal counsel on the phone, and we said, this isn't a tax, it's an assessment. It's a landowner assessment. You have private landowners with private drainage that have joined together for the purpose of draining their land. And for the benefit of the drainage, they pay an assessment relative to the benefit that they receive. And I said the analogy I could draw would be a homeowners association, where you're in an HOA and you pay dues, monthly dues to that HOA for the services they provide. And I said a drainage district is really no different than that. It has a government feel to it because in most cases, or in all cases, the actual assessments come from the county. But the fact that the county sends out the notices does not make that a tax. It is a private assessment for draining their land. He listened to that. Our attorney sent him about 8 pages of condensed drainage law with relevant sections highlighted, which basically supported our point of view. And his response was, well, I'll need to talk with the senator and see if there's a way forward on this. And at this point, we've not made contact again, but on my to-do list when I get back to the office this week is to contact him and see if we've made any progress. And I said on the phone, I said, this is frustrating because here you have landowners in the district that are doing everything they're supposed to do, that are following the law, that are paying their drainage assessments when they get them, and they look across the road and they see a chunk of land that happens to be owned by Fish and Wildlife Service that is getting benefit, like everyone else, that is enjoying the benefits of being in that drainage district and having their land drained, that they're not paying for it. And I said, that's not right. These people are supposed to be working for us, not vice versa. And he said he understood that. He would have a conversation with the senator and get back to it. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep plugging. Next thing I'd talk about is legislative session this year, and we did have a bill that we went into the session with, which ended up containing two of our priorities. It was House File 2552, and that bill basically did two things. The first thing is an issue that we had heard about from our drainage clerks, and they pointed out to us is that when reassessment notices are sent out, when you're doing a reclassification, not only do the landowners receive all that information, but the landowners have to pay to have that information published. And I said, you know, their condition was, why are we paying thousands of dollars to have something published which the landowners have already received and already have access to? In some cases, it was in excess of $10,000 per county that was going directly, you know, being charged directly back to the landowners to have information in the newspaper which they'd already received. So the first part of the bill dealt with that and said that as long as the district had done everything it was supposed to do in terms of issuing the notices, sending it out, having the information available online, having the information available in the county courthouse, that publication would not have to take place. So that was the first thing. The second thing was the dollar threshold that exists in law in terms of when you have to get an engineer's opinion on drainage work. And what we did was we raised that to what is called a competitive bid threshold, which right now is $139,000. So it raised the limit, so you know you could still get an engineer's report for less than that, but if you didn't want to, up to $139,000, you wouldn't have to. So again, a cost saving for members of the district. We got that bill passed the House with no problems. I think the vote in the House was 97 to nothing or 98 to nothing. We got the bill over to the Senate, first part of March. Everything's in good shape. Session's rolling along. We have assurances from Senate leadership that the bill will come up. It'll probably be a 5-minute bill on the floor. You know, get the bill out, introduce it, read it in, vote, get it to the governor's office. Simple as that. Well, you know, then we got to March and the legislature went home. And they went home till mid-June when they came back into session to complete their work for the year. Obviously, when they came back in mid-June, they had not yet put together a budget for the next fiscal year, which started July 1st, so the start of the fiscal year was 2 weeks away. So their top priority was getting the budget done, and that occupied about 80% of their time. Other than that, what I call the policy bills, and I would lump our bill in that category, the policy bills they took up were very, very few and far between. And we had hoped that we would convince Senate leadership to take the bill up. We had several senators that approached the leadership and asked them to take the bill up. But in the end, it was not taken up, and they adjourned for the year. So the unfortunate thing is, of course, is that this is the end of the legislative session, the end of the 2-year session, so we have to start over again in January. These bills aren't held over like it would be if we were in the middle of a legislative session. So assuming the legislature comes back into session January, whatever date it is, 2021, we'll be back with that bill next year and hopefully be able to get it through the process. The last thing I'd talk about is that IDDA has recently become involved in a grant. We were approached last fall by the Iowa Agricultural Water Alliance, which is sort of an offshoot of the Iowa Soybean Association. And the Ag Water Alliance was putting together a grant which was called an RCP grant, Regional Conservation Partnership, which is funded by NRCS. And the grant is titled Conservation Drainage, and they wanted IDDA to be a partner in that grant. And we agreed to do so. That grant has been funded. It is not officially kicked off yet, but the grant has been funded for 5 years for a total of $10 million. Now, we're not getting, I want to stress, we're not getting $10 million. We're getting a very small piece of that. But what our role is to talk about conservation drainage in terms of the future of drainage in the state of Iowa. And what happens now is that if you have a drainage improvement, so you're going to do improvement and you're going to improve the ability of the land to drain water. And what that normally means now is you put in bigger mains so you can move more water. There's really not a big redesign of the system. It's basically using the same design with just bigger pipes. We want to take that to the next level and say, as long as you are doing a redesign and looking at the system, let's take a systems approach and see if there's a way to do that redesign and incorporate conservation practices into that redesign and build them into the improvement, so that, you know, if there were ways to put in a bioreactor or a saturated buffer or a wetland to capture tile water and hold it, that made sense in terms of that improvement, that could be done. So that's really what it's all about. And conservation drainage in its simplest form means that you hold water before you drain it. And, you know, right now there are companies out there that have, structures that go in the ground that, act as stopgaps and stop logs, so that when you get excess precipitation, instead of the water just draining, it's parked. And the amount that is drained is controlled, it's slowed down. And when you hold the water like that, especially if you hold it on the surface for a period of time, and you do so in such a way that it doesn't damage the farmland, the water being exposed to sunlight will go through a natural denitrification process. So actually when it does get drained, it is cleaner water going through the drain tile. So that grant is kicking off. Like I said, it is a 5-year, $10 million partnership. There are lots of other partners besides IDDA. The other piece of that, of course, is that you all have to know that as trustees when you're looking at an improvement. And the second thing is that drainage engineers, when they're designing these improvements, then have to build those improvements into the plan. And of course, like any other drainage improvement, that would be subject to remonstrance and citizen comment and all those kind of good things that go with drainage law. So we're excited about that, and I really think that's the future of drainage, because we know that we have an aging infrastructure. In many cases, the county mains, the big mains out there were put in decades ago. We know that they are not operating as efficiently as they once were, and that will continue to deteriorate over time. We know that farming practices have changed, so we know that there will be improvements that will be contemplated and done on the landscape. And we just want to make sure that if it makes sense in that improvement to incorporate some conservation practices into that we have a way to do that. So with that, I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Questions?
To your points on assessments, what kind of dollar figures are you talking about for a lot of the people that are paying them as private citizens versus?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. To your point on assessment values, okay, what do private citizens pay, typically, versus what kinds of dollars amounts are being avoided by the
Fish and wildlife.
Fish and Wildlife?
I'm sorry,
Sure,
I
sure.
wear hearing aids, I can't do that with
Okay.
a mask, so.
I'm curious, you talked about how private farmers are being expected to pay these bills
Yes.
when these assessments arrive in their mailbox. But these agencies aren't paying their bills. So I'm asking you, what kinds of dollar amounts are private citizens being asked to cover? And they're doing due diligence and they're paying their bills versus how much is going unpaid by Fish and Wildlife?
Yeah, how much is going unpaid? I don't have a number on that. It isn't quantified. That's one of the things that we're going to look at and try to capture that over time to get to put a dollar value on that. And certainly, you know, if you have a major improvement, the amount that a private landowner would have to pay could be thousands of dollars, very easily. In some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars for if you have a large landowner and a big improvement. So if you've got a parcel sitting there or a pretty good sized chunk of land that for whatever reason isn't paying those assessments, that percentage has to go back against the other landowners.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I don't think FAA pays either.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Well, we got how that in the ordinance slip. That never gets paid.
Yeah. Federal agencies are going to get, state does,
Yeah, the state does.
state does, but we have trouble with the feds.
I've heard that before.
Best of luck next year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Item 11, from the Community and Economic Development Director for action is approval to allocate $1,000 from gaming revenue in 2 days in the form of 16 hours total paid time off for the United Way of Siouxland Employee Contribution Campaign.
Thank you, David Gleiser, Director of Community Economic Development. It's annual activity that Woodbury County employees engage in with the local United Way of Siouxland. It funds the local United Way Community Impact Fund, which supports education, income, and health initiatives for families in Siouxland. Last year, Woodbury and County employees collectively raised $20,634 in total, and we're shooting for an increase of 10% this year as our goal. And just request the board's support and
I'll move it.
recommend approval.
Second?
Motion by Raddick, second by Wright. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 12 from the County Sheriff for action is approval of the application for Walmart Local Community Grant for the 2020 Christmas Shop with a Cop.
I'll move that too.
Todd Wick,
Second
Sheriff's
motion by
Office.
Raddick, go ahead.
I'm sorry, what?
I
missed it.
moved it, he seconded.
Todd Wick, Sheriff's Office. I'm just here to let the, by county policy, let the board know that we're applying for the 2020 Walmart Shop with a Cop grant for the Christmas season this year. We never receive any money through this. We just fill out the grant. The gift cards are held by Walmart. We go through the process of finding 16 to 20 kids that are worthy of, or not worthy, but welcoming of the chance to participate in the program. And then the date's set. We go to the store, shop with them, and they each get a $100 gift card to spend on gifts for their family and themselves. But we do have to write the grant this year. Walmart's always done it for us in the past, and they've changed the procedure now, so now we're writing it.
Will that change the outcome, you think?
No, we've been promised it'll continue to go as it always has. We've been doing it about 8 to 10 years, I think, somewhere in that ballpark.
You said 16 to 20 kids?
16 to 20 kids. Sioux City PD usually has probably about the same amount of kids we do. Usually have about 35, 40 kids shopping at both of the locations, the Southern Hills and the Floyd Boulevard location. So it's just informational. We're doing it following county policy. So. Any questions?
Is Supervisor Raddick too old to participate?
You can come along if you want. We can talk to Walmart.
All right. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I missed who made that motion.
Raddick and myself.
Okay.
Item 13 from Secondary Roads, County Engineer Mark Nair, includes A for action, approval of plans for project number parent 139.
The Parent 139 project is a replacement of a bridge on the Mobile Blacktop about a mile south of Highway 20. The bridge is not posted at this time, but it's in pretty tough structural condition. We were able to get grant money through Iowa Department of Transportation through the Competitive Highway Bridge Program. The balance of the project is being funded by the state swap-funded money. So this is entirely outside funding that's helping us pay for this bridge. This is one of 3 tied projects that we're involved with. We have 2 of the 3 projects. The third, if the board remembers, we signed a 2080 agreement with Lyon County for the 3rd bridge in the group. I talked to a couple of you. Lyon County lost their county engineer. We were looking at managing that project for them. They hired a new county engineer effective August 5th. So they'll be taking care of their own project in this case. But I recommend approval of plans for the Parent 139 project.
I'll move that.
Second the motion by Raddick. Hearing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes 5-0. Item B is approval of plans for project number parent 141.
This is the second project in the tied bundle with Lyon County. This is on O'Brien Avenue, which is County Road L36 south of Correctionville. It's a narrow bridge also in nearing that position where it would need to be posted. So it is in the type of condition we like to get it replaced before it is posted out on the farm to market system. I recommend approval of plans.
I'll move that.
Whoa.
Second.
Statistical tie. Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any comments?
Sounds like a coin flip to me.
Yeah. Rock, paper, scissors. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes 5-0. Item C is approval of contract for PCC crushing 2020 with Schmillen Construction for $177,654.
Schmellen has returned a signed contract. I recommend approval of the contract by the board.
I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? Questions?
Or maybe I'd like to go crush the concrete too, you know.
Yeah.
With the sledgehammer?
Make sure you play some Peter Gabriel while you do that, okay?
What's the county engineer version of a ride-along?
Of a what?
What's the county engineer version of a
It's a
ride-along?
ride-along. We go out and watch the project. You
Okay.
grab samples off the belt, and
Drive the excavator.
we can take you into the lab and let you run a gradation sample for us.
And
We have a lot
then
of fun on a
Yeah.
ride-along, so.
that's the prerequisite to being the gravel liaison for the board.
The gravel liaison.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 14 from the Board of Supervisors, myself, is approval for funding not to exceed $11,700 from the Board of Supervisors FY21 budget to provide $25 employee appreciation bonus to all Woodbury County employees. Typically, we have a luncheon outside at this time of year. Obviously, there's been an incident in the treasurer's office which affected several employees, and I think if we have a gathering intentional, well, I might be comfortable being in that environment. I just know that the board will catch some flack for it. It's just the world we live in. It's going to be, we're going to reap some grief for holding a benefit luncheon like this. That's just what I think will happen. So I endeavored to come up with an alternative. I thought about, a lunch idea outside. I thought about, maybe a Hy-Vee gift card. In all cases, there's still some contact involved. So as a one-time thing, I contemplated a bonus. I was going to $25 to Hy-Vee, but maybe someone wants to order in, something like that. The funding mechanism for this would, as I'm proposing, reallocate money we don't anticipate spending from the Board of Supervisors budget. So in this way, even though the board isn't the members aren't personally writing checks for low cost and donated food that we're spending time serving, this would be based upon mostly travel, school of instruction, things the board is not going to be doing because of COVID-19 that we only have available this year to use in a different way, and we don't have any other plan for it at this time. So that's my idea. This would be processed on the August 28th payroll. That said, it's just an idea, and I thought I should kick it off because I think we should do something this year. But it's a unique time, and again, I just don't want any of the board members to catch flack for trying to do something nice this year. So I'll open it up for comment, or if anyone wants to propose any changes.
Well, I'm fine with this because I agree with you. I think especially this, you're doing something for the employees. The luncheon was nice. I always enjoyed doing that, but you're right, having them all get together probably wouldn't be a good thing, so I would be supportive of this.
Can we reach out to county employees to determine what's more meaningful to them? Is $25 in their pockets right now more meaningful? Or when's the last time there was a holiday party thrown? With $12,000, you could put on a heck of a holiday
I think
party.
you do the holiday party, right?
I think the Board of Supervisors care and they do put on a holiday luncheon.
Yeah, we typically do over Christmas, do something.
This could be our outreach, so raise your hand if you'd like. Appreciate $25
How much does that usually
rather
cost?
than the luncheon. Okay, 2 hands.
Uh-huh.
About 2,000, usually cater from Central Catering or Hy-Vee or something.
So David, you wouldn't show up to a Christmas party that we funded with 14 grand, and invite, we could invite Blake Shelton, but I don't know if he'd do it for that.
I would show up for that.
No? Yeah?
I think Reddick could settle for a bag of potato chips, wouldn't he?
Can we get like an extra $25 in there to fill up that file drawer full of chips again?
You donate first. Well, you don't get it.
If we did approve this, we would have to draw the line somewhere as to who gets it. So the proposal is if your payroll is processed by Woodbury County, you would get it. I don't know of another way that's more fair than to do that, even though there are employees that doesn't apply to that would go to a luncheon. Obviously, if someone just came in and wanted food and none of us recognized them, I don't know if anyone would turn them away. So that's how we get to the 421 employees, full and part-time, not seasonal, but part-time included. A little bit extra, $191 per employee to cover the employer share of Social Security and Medicare, so that they would see they would see the full amount. They'd obviously be taxed on it. But the original idea being $20, that's probably what they'd end up with around there.
Just to clarify, elected officials are not eligible.
That's correct.
So is it going to show up on their paycheck like appreciation bonus, or how would it show up?
Something like that. We could decide that.
We would like them to at least know, because, sure, very few actually watch the board meetings and know what we're discussing. And
Michelle, can you answer that? What your capability is?
Yeah, we're limited on the number of characters, but we can definitely put something on there that would signify what it is, and it would show up as something that they would obviously know is different than regular pay.
How many characters?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Top of my head.
Can't decide that tonight, I guess.
You're not going to push for a gift from Matthew Ung?
No, I'm not going to be like Trump and sign all the,
Yeah, you got to sign every one of them.
with love from Matthew Ung. Yeah.
And you know, the way you said it, something's going to be missed. And I think we're doing something good for them, especially in this year. And with that in mind, I'll move this motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Potabom, second by Radig. Again, one-time thing, the board is not going to have this much money left in its budget. But I do think it's neat that it's coming from the Board of Supervisors budget rather than just getting from gaming or other funding sources. So in that way, it's still, we'll communicate that it's from the board. Any other comments? And we will plan for a Christmas thing.
But no Blake Shelton.
Well, I wasn't contemplating that.
Okay.
Anyway, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 15, reports on committee meetings. Anybody?
Let me double check my calendar. Simcoe board, nothing that we haven't discussed.
Yeah.
You could start and I'll finish anything you forget.
Chairman Ung and I belong on the Commission for WCICC, and remind me, Matthew, how is it that Director Malloy might be advanced a little bit?
Over time, the commission has decided that his job duty falls more in the realm of a chief rather than a director.
CIO,
Chief Information Officer, which would leave the director position as the first step to the CIO position. And so that was recommended to the city, and the city basically said the commission decides that, and so the commission decided to advance him to that designation.
and then what was that going to do? That was going to open up a security officer. What was the title on that too? So that's been, wasn't that getting that, the addition of, so I know in the past he's been trying to get a system security, can't remember the title of that either, but.
He's been trying to hire, yeah.
Yeah. So.
You know, and he gave us a helpful chart of what the directors oversee and different teams, and one of the positions is unfilled as of now, but he's definitely, you know, done a great job being accountable to the commission
and for the city and the county. I think he's done, or his department. He always gives credit to his people, so.
one of the longer standing, often forgotten areas of collaboration between the city and the county is keeping that. There haven't been any funding disputes over the last few years of major items. It's been working out. So we had a good meeting, good annual review. Any other reports on committee meetings? You find anything? Item 16, any citizen concerns? Item 17, any board concerns? No one's concerned? Oh, you're concerned, Mr. DeWitt.
Can you explain what you know about the lawsuit issue, Mr. Gill?
I cannot.
You cannot.
Other than what is reported in the media, which is obviously always...
You learned about it in the media just like we did, or?
That's correct.
Any other board concerns? We are adjourned.